everyone, it's Nikenji. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you how I edit my photos using my Lightroom presets, which are finally available for sale on my website, so definitely go check those out. Round of applause too, honestly, because it only took me like about 3 years. Better late than never. Some time ago, I showed you guys how I edit, plan, and publish my Instagram photos. I would say a lot has changed since then. During that time, I was still wrapping my head around photography and finding better ways to edit. And it wasn't until I started to implement pro software like Adobe Lightroom and Adobe Photoshop that I started to realize, wow, there are levels to this and the levels never stop. Just to think that you can target particular parts of a photo and really just get specific with editing, I found it mind-blowing, and it really helped to take my photo editing game to the next level. They have also allowed me to create these presets, which I am now going to show you how to use. So let's get into it. First off, what are presets? Here's an analogy. You know when you're about to put on makeup and you start with your foundation, you do some contouring, you fill in your brows, you add blush, things like that. You are adding all of these products to your face to enhance your features. I think of presets as makeup for your photos. So you are altering all the different elements that make up a photo, such as the shadows, the lighting, the temperature, to achieve a particular look, whether it's for one photo or achieve an aesthetically pleasing theme for a set of photos. Now, there are so many presets available across the internet. Some I would refer to as costume makeup because they're a bit more on the extreme side, bold and high on the saturation and super high on contrast, things like that. But then there are also presets that achieve more of a natural look. Now, as a disclaimer, please keep in mind, not all photos are created equal. When a photo is being captured, so many things are being calculated, such as the lighting, the shadows, the highlights, and more. And a lot of that can vary depending on your location, your setup, or just your overall environment. Lucky for you, presets are customizable, they are adjustable, and I'm going to show you how you can adjust them to your liking in this video. So 3, 2, 1, let's go. For this tutorial, you're going to need my Lightroom presets, or really any presets that you have. I would prefer you to use mine, just putting that out there. Number 2, you're going to need Adobe Lightroom for desktop or mobile. And number 3, the raw images that you plan on editing. Although you can use JPEG images as well, my Lightroom presets consist of presets that are made for JPEG images, so whichever works. As a bonus, I am going to include a short tutorial on certain ways I like to edit my photos in Photoshop as a way to just take things a step further. Photoshop is totally optional. First things first, you are going to import your photos. So that is as easy as clicking on File, clicking Add Photos, and finding the folder where your photos are located. As you can see, this photo here, super cute. There's a lot of blues going on in this photo. This photo was taken in Portugal, and I will say that my presets work very well with like tropical settings. It also works well with city settings, but really like creme de la creme with tropical settings. For this one, all you have to do is head over to where the presets were imported. You just navigate to the presets tab here, and then you're going right here. I'm under It's Nikenji Raw Presets because this is a raw file. I am going to click on the preset that I feel works best. I'm liking this one, NK1. This is where the adjusting comes in. So you can literally just drag the slider here to adjust accordingly. If you want to do more specific edits, you would navigate over to the Edit tab, which is right over here. For me, what I like to do, I actually don't like my photos to be too dark, so I would increase the exposure a bit. I would also up the contrast just a little bit, just to bring out those colors, deepen those shadows, things like that. Upping the saturation, maybe even the vibrance a little bit to really bring out those colors. One other thing I would do, and this varies depending on the photo. Sometimes, you know, the sky, you'll see it could be completely blue and it looks great. And sometimes it could be a little dull like this. With raw photos, you definitely have a lot more creative control when it comes to editing the photos. I may turn down the highlights a bit to bring in that information that was lost. As you can see, look at that. You bring down the highlights and now I'm able to see more of the blues of the sky. So I might bump up the exposure just a little bit more, but overall, I'm liking what I'm seeing. Now for me, I may want to remove a couple of things in the photo, right? This is also a tool that you can use to remove people. Like let's say you're at the beach and there are people in the water behind you and you want to remove them. This is something that you can do. You can navigate to the healing tool right here. Go to the area where you want to use it. I'm gonna go right
here in this area. I'm just going to make this brush a little larger. I have it on the heal tool right here, but there's also another one called clone, which you can use as well, but I'm gonna use heal. And I would just go over certain parts of the photo to remove certain parts that I don't like. One other thing that I do as well, I may zoom in on my skin a little bit, make the brush a little smaller, and I would remove maybe acne that's on my face. For Instagram, the crop would be 4:5. So I would just navigate to the crop tab here. I would click on aspect ratio, go to 4:5, and I would just do it like that. You can also do 1:1, which is another aspect ratio that Instagram goes off of. For me, I would do 4:5. It's all up to you. And then this is how I would post it. But like I said, if I were to, let's say, crop it and make it way more zoomed in than it is, I might do a little bit more maybe to my face, remove some acne bumps or whatever, just to clean up the photo overall. Another thing that you may want to do as well, let's say when you apply this preset to your photo, your skin tone is maybe looking a bit too orange or maybe too reddish, whichever. Navigate down to where it says color mixer. For me, because the oranges fall on my skin tone, I would adjust the oranges accordingly. I would just turn them down maybe a little bit. I would also play with the hue as well. So for the hue, I may want to bring some of those magentas back. As you can see, it brings back kind of like the reds in my skin, making the skin look more natural as opposed to just overly orange. When I tell you, I used to be a person that would remove veins from my feet. Like I was that particular, but to be honest, I don't even care anymore. I just let it be. That's basically what I would do with this photo. I'm gonna show you a couple edits for other photos before I head into Photoshop. Here is another photo that I actually took recently for a brand. For this photo, I'm going to choose, let's see. So there's NK1. I'm going to choose NK2. I like how NK2 really brings out the blues of the jacket. I also like how my skin tone looks. And again, if you wanted to deepen the intensity, you could by just sliding this left to right here under amount, but I'm not gonna do that for this. I'm gonna navigate to the edit tab and I'm going to up the exposure a bit, make it a little brighter. I'm gonna up the temperature just a tad, nothing crazy. Everything else looks pretty good, honestly. I'm actually okay with this. If I wanted to take it a step further, I could be super anal and head over to the healing tab and completely remove as much of these little marks as possible on the bottom, because I know that could be a bit, you know, distracting for the photo, but I'm not gonna do that right now. But it's just showing you, you could see what you can do. The possibilities are endless, at least when it comes to editing. One last thing I will show you before we head over to the Photoshop app is a feature that Lightroom has that I also like to use when it comes to editing. Totally optional, definitely not necessary, but I think it is something that could definitely help you when it comes to editing your photos. Going back to my tropical photo, there is an option called masking. If you head over to the masking tab, there are quite a few things listed here. I'm just gonna focus on one of them. Under create a new mask, you see subject, sky, and background. What that means is it's going to select one of these particular things of your choosing, right? So for me, let's say I wanted to select on the background. It's gonna automatically select the entire background. As you can see, it masked out everything. It looks pretty good, but it's not as great because as you can see here, it did select some of my dress, which I'm not sure how it found that to be as a part of the background, but it's fine, it's fine. We're not trying to be too perfect here. Now, what this means is that whatever it selected, you are able to edit that alone, separate from whatever other part of the photo that's not highlighted. As you can see, me, the subject, is not highlighted. So for this, I can actually adjust, say, the exposure of just the background, right? As you could see here, I can lower it a tad, I can increase it a tad, that sort of thing. I can increase the contrast. I can do all of these particular things that are listed here, even adjusting the colors of the photo, so the temperature of the background, all those things, I can do that here. For whatever your photo is giving, it will vary on how you would use this tool, but I think this tool is great if there are certain things that you don't want to touch about the subject itself. Let's say you are adjusting the colors of your skin. You're adjusting the oranges like I did earlier. Let's say there are oranges throughout the photo, but you don't want to touch those. You want those to remain as saturated or as edited as they are. Basically, you would mask the background entirely. You would edit the background accordingly, or you would mask the subject alone by itself and adjust the colors accordingly. That sort of thing. That's one scenario you can use it for, but of course, possibilities are endless here. I just definitely wanted to make sure you guys knew of this feature before we left the app. If something like this happens where it ends up selecting a particular part that you don't want selected, right? Just like I'm showing here with my dress, a part of my dress being selected, then what you would have to do, click on the negative sign here, because this means that you want to subtract from a mask, whereas this means you want to add to a mask. So subtracting, I'm going to click on brush and I'm going to go over the area that's masked. Just to further define this mask and make it more accurate, that's basically what I would do. And I would just really go in there and remove all of that. I'm gonna lower the feather as well to make it way more, there we go. You can adjust the feather, you can adjust the size of your brush that way. I would lower the feather a bit because I want to make sure I get as sharp of an edge as possible. Now this is not 100% perfect. Of course, if I really was trying to edit this to post, I would be all up in here, zooming in and going into every single corner to make sure it's more precise. One other thing that I like to do in Lightroom, especially for close-up portraits, is to add detail to my eyes. With the masking tool, click on brush specifically, adjust the size of the brush, maybe adjust the feathering as well. I don't want it to be too sharp around the edges, but just a little bit. I would select my eye area, just a tad, not too much, just a little bit. I would do the same thing for this area as well. Scroll over to where it says clarity and add more detail. So I would do that. You can even click on sharpness, add a bit more sharpness so you can really show the detail of your eyes. I can do that maybe with my lips. I can do the same thing. Since I already did the edit, I can just brush over these particular areas. And as you can see, it definitely adds more detail. Sometimes I may even go into the hairs of my eyebrows as well. I might do that because maybe I feel like they look a little too soft, so I want them to stand out a bit, so I might do that as well. And this is how it looks before, after. As you can see, it's so subtle, but it really does make the difference, especially if you plan on printing this photo. Oh my gosh. That's pretty much it when it comes to Lightroom as to what I do. It's just general edits and adjustments to make sure that the photo looks good and it works for what I need it for. And then now I will move on to Photoshop. So now that we are in Photoshop, one thing that I do love to do is whiten my teeth and my eyes, because sometimes when you apply the presets, unfortunately, they also get applied to your teeth and your eyes, or certain white parts that you didn't want them to, and ends up making them look yellower than they need to be. I would adjust that in Photoshop. So what I would do is, of course, I would click on the lasso tool and I would adjust the feathering to maybe about 3. Select the white parts of my eye right here. I would be holding on to Shift on my keyboard to be able to make multiple selections. Otherwise, if I don't hold on to Shift and I just select this part, as you can see, it disappears from the eyes. And I don't want that. I want all of this to be selected at the same time as like one layer. Select my teeth. I'm gonna go all up in there, select. Again, it's rough. If there is a part that you messed up on that you want to remove, all you have to do is click on option here, and as you can see, it turns to there's like a little subtraction sign symbol right next to it. That means that you're able to remove a part of the selection. Pretty happy with that. I would head over to adjustments and I would create an adjustment layer, a hue saturation adjustment layer. I'll click on the yellows and then I'll lower the saturation. And as you could see, it really makes a difference. It just removes all of those yellows. I can also brighten them a bit to make them shine a bit more. Totally up to you. for the most part, you get the idea. Another thing that I like to do in Photoshop is play around with the selective color adjustment tool. So right here, I'm gonna click on adjustments and click on selective color. If I'm playing around with the reds and the yellows, similar to how the oranges were affected in Lightroom, for this, it's adjusting my skin tone a bit, brightening the reds in there, and then I'm deepening the reds in there to make my melanin pop even more, which is pretty cool. You can also, of course, adjust yellows, greens, all these other colors as well. So let's say you wanted to adjust the greens, because there's some greens over here, and there's also some greens on my coffee cup. As you can see, it's adjusting the greens a bit. So it's darkening it here when I'm playing around with the black tones. There's so many things you can do here. But yes, this is one thing that I like a lot. One last thing that I like to do in Photoshop is additional retouching. There's a lot of different tools available here, but for the most part, I'd be using the healing brush. Go to healing brush tool. And of course, I would remove little marks that I feel are maybe noticeable, whichever. All I would do is create a new layer by clicking on Command-Shift-N. Holding down Option, I would select different areas of the picture and remove certain things. Maybe even my under eye bag, I would just select a certain part that I want to copy, and I really just try to do as minimal retouching as possible. When it comes to Photoshop, I really would just focus on doing additional retouching, minimal retouching. I would play around with the selective color tool, whiten my teeth and whiten my eyes. That's pretty much it. And if you want to take it a step further than that, first thing I'm going to do actually is merge these layers together, and then I'm going to create a new layer. Go to filter, you click on liquify. Liquify on this app is a little scary because it's so specific. There's even a tool here, it's like kind of the face tool. You literally can adjust certain parts of your face. You can make it smaller, you can make your forehead smaller, you can make your nose even smaller. It's scary. I don't like doing that. I don't like doing that at all. Again, minimal retouching. But yes, I'm just letting you know that that is also available in here as well. This is pretty much my process. This is how I edit my photos. And with the use of my preset, it's really cut my workflow like in half. Like it's just made it so much easier. I would say that's kind of like my go-to when it comes to editing my photos. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope it helps you in your editing process, on your overall editing journey. These presets definitely took some time to make. If you have any questions or concerns or hiccups that you run into when it comes to editing with my presets, things like that, please let me know in the comments below. Ask your questions. I will be watching them. Until next time, take care. Bye.